Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Nerds Podcast. I am your host, Scott Royal Smith with Royal Legal Solutions. We are your home for everything asset protection, real estate investing, tax, estate planning, etc. If you're looking at long-term wealth building through real estate, Royal Legal Solutions is the place to not only coach you what are the best practices on how to do it, but also the actual technical implementation for it. I'm privileged to be here with Brenda Hale today. Today we're going to be talking about the alternatives to 1031 exchanges. And guys, this is a big piece that comes into place is looking at your tax, right? You gotta be optimizing your tax. We know from the Freedom Temple that you can see there on the royallegalsolutions.com homepage. Freedom Temple shows us number one thing we work on is what is our effective dollar per hour in terms of our wealth creation. How are we going to be making the most amount of money that we possibly can? Second thing we look at, guys, is the tax. Right, and that's what Brenda's going to be helping us with today is amplifying our knowledge base of what are the options that we have while we're trying to navigate that tax landscape. So thank you so much, Brenda, for coming on the show today. And can you share with us a little bit about your background to kind of set the stage for us, for you and the types of people that are typically interested in what you do professionally and then the people that you connect with?
Oh, hi. Thanks, Scott. Thank you for having me today. Actually, I am a licensed financial advisor and a licensed real estate agent here in California. I specialize mostly in capital gains tax strategies and alternative financial investment products. And typically, the type of people I work with are commercial investors, individual investors, real estate investment groups, and people seeking alternative financing and investments that don't have any effect with no downside effects to the market. And so today we were going to talk about a sale called the Monetized Installment sale, which is a revised IRS code 453, Internal Revenue Code 453, which allows you to defer the taxes and keep your cash at least equal to about 93.3% of the net sales proceeds.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's kick it off and let's get into the nitty gritty of that. So and underneath, like, what type of assets can you use a monetized installment sale for?
Okay, well, the monetized installment sale, your assets have to be a minimum of $500,000 in value. So it has to be a high valued asset. Valued at $500,000 or more. There is no minimum.
And is that going to be any type of asset too? It's going to be commercial, it's going to be apartment complexes, single family homes, can be anything?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
cool. Anything other than a securities investment.
Okay. And when do you see people typically looking into needing to do a monetized installment sale versus, looking to do a different type of sale? Like, what teams says like, hey, I should be doing a monetized installment sale on this?
Well, what I come across is that it's mainly good for people that are looking for an exit strategy from a 1031 exchange, or even if you're an individual, for instance, and you have a high value residential property and you're subject to capital gains tax, and you want to, if your home is valued over $500,000 and you don't want to pay $100,000 in capital gains tax, you can use this particular sale to defer the taxes for 30 years.
Wow. And so is that going to be typically, you'll find that people typically want to try to do a 1031 exchange, and then if the 1031 exchange for some reason doesn't work, then they'll use a monetized installment sale? Or how does the decision tree typically work for people when approaching the sale of the asset, and what tax strategies they try first and second, third when it comes to stacking in when to use a monetized installment sale?
Well, if you're looking to build and grow, for instance, if you're just starting out as a fix and flip and you have a group and you have an exit strategy where you want to get to, you started out with maybe a couple of properties and your end game is to maybe 1031 exchange up until you get to a hotel or a major apartment complex. Once you reach that goal, and at that point, maybe people are in it for a while and they decide, okay, a couple of partners may say, well, I really don't want to be in this. I want to cash out for whatever reason. You can actually do a partnership, use a monetized sale to buy that particular partner out. You know, they can sell their portion of the asset and defer their capital gains tax. Or if everyone, the corporation or the individual, wants to sell at that point when they're exiting that 1031 exchange, that's when they would contact a company like ours. We would put together the transaction and arrange for the 1031 exchange, the monetized installment sale. It almost is set up the same as the 1031 exchange, because you will need a 1031 intermediary in order to facilitate the sale. However, you will not have to find lifetime property and you know, with the mortgage and all of that. You're just simply going to cash out.
So this is like for somebody that says, hey, you know, I'm ready to cash out. I want to pull, you know, I've done my 1031 exchanges. I've gotten to the bigger the asset. And now I actually want to exit out of my real estate assets. How do I do that? And this is when you would say, okay, well, the right way to do that's going to be a monetized installment sale. Is that fair to say?
Correct. That's when we would pull out, we would get like a seller's net sheet. Anytime you do a real estate transaction, you got to open up escrow and title, and we would do a seller's net sheet. So the way it works is it's a typical real estate transaction where the seller or the real estate agent, if he's represented by the owner, finds a buyer for the property. They negotiate their transaction. They write up the sales contract just as usual. If it's a wholesaler, you know, whatever their usual transactions are, they write their contract the way they usually do. Nothing changes with the original contract. Okay, so once the contract is executed and escrow is open, and the seller decides, oh my gosh, you know, his accountant takes a look and says, wow, you know, you're going to be on a hook for about $1 million in capital gains tax. Well, at that point, that's when they would come to one of us, or we would reach out to someone. A lot of the title people or realtors are familiar with this, and they'll contact one of us for their client. At that point, we would do a seller's net sheet showing them what they would not save, but what they could defer in capital gains taxes versus what they would walk away with. And one of the examples that I just did, let me pull it up here. I had a, oh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that to recap before we go into the case study that you're bringing up. Is that true? So from that perspective, do you have like the buyer and the seller? Let's just take, for example, like the couple of partners into there, and you're going to buy out one of the partners. Nothing actually changes in terms of any of the contractual relationships that need to happen between the partners there. This is the monetized installment sale is just an add-on. Is that right? To say, okay, well, how are we actually going to effectuate part of that sale, but none of the actual terms of the sale itself need to change?
Correct.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that was clear for everybody. Okay. Yeah, let's walk through a case study, Brenda. That'd be fun.
Okay. This particular client had a $10 million multi-family apartment complex, and they sold it for $10 million. They purchased it in 2007 for $7 million, and they had about $500,000 in improvements. Over the years, they depreciated at about $2,153,000, and so that leaves their adjusted cost basis around $5,346,153. So what we do is on the capital gains net sheet, we take the sales price, which is $10 million, minus the selling expenses, which is in this case was $500,000, and the net sales proceeds. I'm sorry, and then that gives us net sales proceeds. So from the net sales proceeds, we subtract the cost basis, and the taxable gains on this particular sale was $4,153,846. The percentage of those taxes, the percentage of that going to the tax bill was about 37.10%, which had him at receiving $4,318,923 at closing. Now that's minus the taxes and the mortgage. The taxes in this case was $1,500,000, $41,076. If they do the monetized installment sale, so what happens is at $9,500,000, the net sales proceeds is actually going to now be converted into the installment sale. So this is where the seller distributions are going to be given to him in the form of a loan. That's where it's not taxable because business loans are not taxed. So in this case, it's going to cost roughly 6.7% to do this particular loan. 5% goes to the lender, the loan is arranged through a dealer. So the seller does not stop the loan.
Just recap real quick too, because I just want to make sure that we're bringing everybody along with us in here. So we end up selling the asset. It's about worth 10. Our cost basis is about 5 million, right? Ish.
Mm-hmm.
So then we execute that sale, and I would typically say, hey, well, you guys actually have 5 million in income that you need to now pay taxes on. So you're not that you could go and say, hey, I'm either going to pay taxes on that, and that's usually going to be around that 35%-ish to 40% mark off of that 5 million. Or you could say, well, great, well, I don't want to pay all those taxes on that right now. So instead, I'm going to do this next piece. And I think that's the piece that you're getting into now, is saying, well, we'll keep it all here, and then we're going to use a loan structure as a part of that. So can you recap for us and say, well, once I said, hey, I know I'm going to do the sale here, I don't want to pay all the taxes on it right now. My option is then what's the next step?
The next step is where we to bring in the other parties, which would be the third party lender and the dealer and an additional escrow company. So once we arrange for the sale of them, we show them on the net sheet that in this particular instance, instead of paying $1,541,000 in taxes, this person will now get to bring an additional $927,831 to them at close of escrow that they can take and use that money to invest into any investment vehicle of their choice. They're not limited to another property. They could put it into mutual funds. They could Bitcoin and any type of other investment vehicle. And those taxes are deferred for 30 years. And in this particular case, they chose to use that $927,000 and put it into an additional investment of oil and gas that returns 12% per year. So in 30 years, that $927,800 will grow to $26,869,000.
Wow, that's pretty fantastic. And
yeah.
Is that something that you guys do in terms of like a side-by-side comparison to say, hey, listen, you could take it all out this one way, and here's what you're going to end up paying in taxes, or you can use this alternative strategy, and here's the spreadsheet that kind of breaks down for you, and this is how much money you're going to get now, this is how much money you're going to redeploy, this is what your cash flow is going to be after you redeploy it, and that way, and this is what the ultimate tax consequence of that's going to be?
Yes, we do. It shows them what you would have to pay if you didn't do the sale, and what additional savings that you have if you do take the monetized installment sale. It's on the same sheet.
That's awesome. And what's the best way for people to get access to that sheet? Is that something that you could share with me and I should email out to everybody, or is that something that I should go to your website to grab?
Oh yes, I can share it with you. You can put it on your website if you like, as a download, a presentation. They can go to my website, which is Hale Insurance Solutions Brenda. www.haleinsuranceSolutions.com, and they can download the presentation there, or email me at Brenda@haleinsuranceSolutions.com, and I could send them a copy of the presentation and an example of the seller's net sheet.
Awesome. Yeah, I think what I'd like to do, Brenda, is if you can send that over to me, what I'll do is I'll send it out to our base as well too, make sure everybody gets a copy of those materials. And then what we can do is schedule another time to then say, hey guys, we shared all these materials with you. Why don't you walk through it live with me and Brenda on XYZ date and time? and then we'll
Oh,
open up to a Q&A for that.
that would be great. Again, I apologize. I flag wanted Kim to come along. Ken, I'm not familiar with doing all of this. I usually speak and then they do all of the back office stuff. So
Perfect.
I'll be a little more prepared for the slideshow for you.
Yeah, this will be great, actually. I think this was perfect. I think everybody's got a ton of value out of this, into just putting it on everybody's radar. So everybody, here, get to royallegalsolutions.com and sign up for our newsletter, sign up for our ways to get involved in all these marketing. That way you can get these informations from Brenda, or go to Brenda's website there, that you just mentioned, to be able to connect with her directly on that. And just one thing before we wrap here, because we have the number 2 main point that we have inside of this is going to be the oil and gas, like investing the capital gains into oil and gas to allow the capital gains and earn the 12% ROI, and that the term range there is between 12 months and 3 years.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that strategy? Why oil and gas? Why these types of term arrangements? Why do those exist?
Well, oil and gas is considered investing in the infrastructure. So the courts allow for, and the IRS allows for this to be considered real estate because there are permanent fixtures there in the oil rigs. So now they can consider that real estate, which will allow you, it's another exit strategy or a backup to a 1031 exchange. If, for instance, you have difficulty identifying your property or meeting that deadline, to identify or to purchase in that 180 days, you can, at that instance, say, hey, let me just go ahead and roll that into oil and gas. And the oil and gas is fixed. It's a fixed rate of return as well at 12% per year. That's if you leave it in for the 36 months. There are alternate interest rates. If it's for 1 year, it's 8.5. 3 years, 2 years, it's 9.5. But if you leave it in for the full full 36 months, it's a 12% rate of return, which you can continue to roll that. You can continue to convert that 1031 exchange over another 3 years, as long as you like. And if you decide out of that, okay, now I'd like to, buy that hotel on the beach in San Diego for $12 million. I have it now. So now I can roll it. I can take the 1031 exchange in the oil and gas, and now I can buy that hotel. So they interchange.
That's awesome. And I saw in there too that you had highlighted, it said this after 10 years that all of the gains are tax exempt. So if you have your big cash out, then you take your gains, you're pushing them into oil and gas, you're earning your 12% over your 12-month to 3-year types of investments that you can keep reinvesting after that 12 to the 36-month time period. And then after 10 years, all of the gains that you made there are now tax exempt. Is that accurate? And can you tell us why after 10 years, all of the gains are tax exempt?
Well, I'm not sure why after 10 years they're tax exempt. I just know that not the initial not the initial capital gains. That tax does need to be paid. So if your capital gains tax was $100,000, for example, you would need to still pay the original $100,000. But at the end of after the 10th year in 1 day, all the gains other than the initial capital gains taxes are considered to be tax exempt.
Oh, that's
same with, and we can discuss another time too, same with opportunity zone funding. If you've ever heard of that, that's another option where you can defer the capital gains tax. And also foreign investors can invest in the opportunity zones as well without being subject to the Patriot Act.
And when it looks in terms of people are trying to decide whether they want to invest in the oil and gas infrastructure to defer the capital gains or inside of opportunity zones, what seems to be the differentiator between why people look at one strategy versus the other?
It's just a personal preference. For instance, we have a group of a foreign group from another country that a lot of outside interests in the United States believe that land and real estate means that they own a part of and they get feel like they're part of the United States, so they like real estate. A lot of people feel real estate is the way to go. It's recession proof, so to speak. You can pass it on to their heirs. It's tangible. When you say oil and gas, it's still a lot of people feel like, well, if the oil industry tanks, I could lose my money, or it's just they just don't understand it because it's somewhat new. The way that you can exchange it is kind of a new technique. So it might be a little harder to sell to some people. Now others get it right away. So it's just a matter of preference.
Very cool. And there's some different upsides too, right? With the opportunity zone, you can have basically unlimited upside to it, right? If you're making improvements to the property and that property appreciates or whatever. And with inside the oil and gas play, it looks like that you're getting like that 12% ROI. So you're saying, oh, well, I don't have unlimited upside, but I still have a great return. Is that fair to say in terms of the analysis for the type of upside potential?
Yeah, that would be fair to say. And with the oil and gas as well, you can continue to grow, as long as that investment is performing. But at the end, you are right, because in the end, when they sell it, there's an additional bonus. There's an additional potential. Not only do you get that 12% annual rate of return, but you also get a percentage of the sale of that particular oil refinery or oil rig. So once they close that out and they sell it, you own an interest in that sale as well.
Okay. So you might also, if you're looking at these two particular strategies, you might also say, what do I think the different appreciation would be between real estate versus an oil and gas infrastructure asset?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Wow, there sounds like there's a lot more to learn about this, Brenda. I'd love to circle back and do a follow-up on this as well too. And look at saying like, how can we kind of break down each of these things in steps and maybe even do like a whole series on it, walking people through it over the course of maybe like five to 10 episodes, from the very highest level all the way down into the details of it. I think this is a really key piece, especially with a lot of people that are looking at that are, at that 2, 3, 5 million net worth range that are trying to say, okay, well, I'm getting into that next level. I can see what's on the horizon. And these look like great things that needs to be on the radar because the tax savings really is so important there. Where do you typically see like the net worth or the types of situations that these types of strategies really start to play in for people? Is it typically around how much money are they making each year, or is it typically around like a certain net worth that people really seem to do business with you guys and look into these strategies?
It is, yes. Typically, the people that have $1 million or so or more in equity or of assets, you usually don't see it being approached. I actually probably would say 5 million or more. And others, if we bring it to their attention, it will draw their interest that it's not really being sought out. Got it.
And in terms of minimum investment to make into like the oil and gas infrastructure here, are those typically like $100,000, $500,000, $1 million buy-ins as to be able to, even to be able to make that type of investment?
The 1 to 3 years where you leave it in for the full 3 years, that's a $250,000 investment. There's the 12-month investment, or that's just 12 months alone. That is a minimum of $50,000, and then the 24 months is $75,000.
Okay, and is it one of those things too, like the shorter the time period, the lower ROI?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, very, very cool, Brenda. I mean, what a pleasure having you onto the show here today. And for everybody that'd like to reach out to you to connect with you, Brenda, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would say the best way to reach me would be to email me at Brenda at Hale, Hale, insurancesolutions.com.
Excellent, Brenda. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Guys, we are going to be working here, and I'm going to be talking with Brenda about how do we take this extremely powerful information and push it into like a course for you guys where we can then have the audio, the video, slideshows, case studies, etc., broken down. I know that you guys are excited about this type of information, just like I am about it. So stay tuned, and we'll be following up on this. If you want to get that info, the best way to be able to know when that's going to come out, what we're going to be talking about, is going to be part of our email list. You can sign up for that email list on the royallegalsolutions.com website. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Real Estate Nerds Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Scott Royal Smith. I'm the owner of Royal Legal Solutions. We are the one-stop shop for your wealth building through real estate. Have a great day, guys. Thank you, Brenda, so much for coming on the show.